Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today I am coming to you all with a review for The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, directed by Patrick Hughes and starring Ryan Reynolds, Samuel L. Jackson, and Salma Hayek. So story-wise, we have the world's most lethal odd couple. Unlicensed bodyguard Michael Bryce and hitman Darius Kincaid are back for yet another life-threatening mission. However, this time around, matters are further complicated by Darius's ever-so-volatile wife, Sonia. And soon enough, all three find themselves pushed to their limits when a wealthy madman's sinister plot threatens to leave Europe, and for once, not the entire world, in total chaos. Alright, so I'm going to start with the pros. I actually was pleasantly surprised by this one. So jumping back to the first film, that was a film that really surprised me because that was one of those films I went in and just watched because it was something to watch. Because I'm such a theater goer and I enjoy being in the theater and going to the movies regularly, a lot of times, even if the movie is just kind of I'll still go and probably check it out just to give it a chance because I love the feeling of the theater, I love the environment. It's something I enjoy visiting regularly. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and check it out. And surprisingly, it was a really fun time. Yes, it was another variation of the buddy cop genre, but I thought that Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson, they made a very unlikely pair, and I enjoyed the setting. I loved how it was shot in all these different locations, especially Amsterdam. I had always heard that Amsterdam was a beautiful country, but oh my goodness, like watching the scenes in that film, I was just like, okay, I have to visit Amsterdam. So that was another part I appreciated. And just overall, it just was an unexpected surprise for me. I just went in kind of like, and I walked out like, okay, I feel good. I feel refreshed. Really, really had a good time. And I will say some of the same aspects I enjoyed about the first film, I also enjoyed in this one. Of course, I have to give it to Ryan Reynolds, Samuel L. Jackson, and Salma Hayek. They are all such talented and charismatic actors, and I always enjoy seeing them in their comedic lane, especially Samuel L. Jackson and Salma Hayek because they've also done very gritty, serious roles also. I just thought they really worked well as a comedic trio. I enjoyed their chemistry, I enjoyed their banter and their dialogue, and I think the three of them really worked well together. I was also glad we got an expanded role for Salma Hayek. She was a smaller supporting character in the first film, but she definitely got boosted up to a main in this one, and we get a whole lot of her too. Now, this is a purely unadulterated R-rated comedy. We are talking profanity, we are talking raunchiness, we are talking all kinds of violence. So if you're down for that, this is definitely the film for you. I tend to be kind of up and down with some R-rated comedies because a lot of those elements can work for some and not so much for others. But I can say for this film, for the most part, it definitely worked for me. I also thought the casting was pretty on point. In addition to our main cast, we have some really solid supporting actors in this also. Frank Grillo, Tom Hopper, and Antonio Banderas. There also was an extremely surprising cameo appearance in this film, and thankfully it wasn't spoiled for me because it was a genuine like, are you serious when that person showed up? And I love when certain films do that where the most unlikely of actors that you would see in a film like this suddenly pop up and it's like, oh, well, let's go with that. And once again, we are shooting on location, and I really enjoyed that. Seeing all these characters navigate all these really beautiful countries like Italy and Croatia and Slovenia and Bulgaria and the UK. I love that, not just because I'm a traveler myself, but just always seeing these different locations represented in these stories and films, action sequences or whatever, I always find that to be something pretty enjoyable. So was definitely here for that. And I just have to say in general that this was a really fun time at the theater. As I said earlier, I am definitely a theater goer, been going since I was really, really little. And then into adulthood, I've gotten into going myself regularly, all kinds of theaters, flashback, throwback cinema, new films, like anything. I just love the theater. And so naturally, last year was quite a struggle for me, to say the least. I was able to see a few films sporadically throughout the year, as well as a few drive-in experiences, but as someone who goes consistently, if not every week, then every other week, it was rough. So I thought it was so awesome to be in the theater watching this film and just to hear everyone's laughter and everyone really enjoying the film and having a good time and the comedy and the jokes just flying and everyone really like being appreciative of that. I thought that was so, so great. So even from that perspective, I appreciate that this film did its job in providing an experience for the audience to really, really enjoy. I thought that was so, so awesome. All right, so I'm gonna jump over to the cons. Now, I did have a good time with this, but I have to say there are definitely more than a few cons here. So, generally, the problem with sequels is that they have the challenge of replicating pretty much everything that was good about its predecessor, while also attempting to establish a new story that's just as good as the first. Which is why we have so many sequels that are just cranking everything up times 10 to really overcompensate for the first film. Take, for instance, Spider-Man 3, Age of Ultron, and pretty much any Fast and Furious sequel. And unfortunately, this film is no exception. I mean, there is a lot going on here, and believe me, a whole lot of it is fun, but I also wish we had gotten more balance like we did in the first film. Still silly, still over the top, still a whole lot going on. We also had some moments just to kind of like slow down a little bit and round out the story, and I think we had a lot less of that here. Actually, I'm not sure if we had really any of that here. Although I did enjoy Salma Hayek in the first film, and I'm glad to see her with an expanded role here. I feel like they made her character just a little bit one note, and they were kind of hitting us over the head. I just feel like they could have given her just a little bit more nuance. I understand her character is extra, and I have no issue with that. But it just seemed like we were kind of like, like hitting the same beats over and over. And I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more nuance, a little bit more depth to her character, and just to see some different dynamics from her instead of just the same thing the entire time. That was the only thing I had an issue with. And then lastly, as talented as I feel this entire cast is, I feel like most of the funny, really standout moments are relegated to our main cast. I don't feel like the supporting cast was really utilized that well here, and that's unfortunate because I feel like everyone who was a part of this could have really brought more to it. Especially Frank Grillo. It almost feels like this movie was made for him. It's the type of vehicle that you would normally see him in. Not to typecast him, but this is definitely his lane. So the fact that they didn't take advantage of that and at least have like one chase sequence, one fight sequence or something was just like, really? And it was pretty much the same for Tom Hopper and Antonio Banderas. Great actors, I enjoyed them in the film. It's nice when we do see them, but I don't think they had any real standout moments. They never really got their chance to shine in this, which is unfortunate. So I'm gonna go ahead and give The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard a B-. This wasn't a perfect film. I didn't feel like it was a bad film, but I think as far as a sequel, it didn't quite hit the mark as far as being as good as the first, which sequels often struggle to do. But I did think that it was a really fun time. I definitely enjoyed myself. I was laughing, I was cracking up, and the audience definitely enjoyed it as well. So I've said before that a little escapism goes a long way, and so does a little comedy. And I think that, of course, this past year has only heightened that. So I would definitely recommend this just for the experience, just to have a good time, just to kind of kick back and relax and just enjoy all the chaos, all the explosions, all the profanity, all the violence and in-your-face shenanigans that you can find in this. It really is a good time, and I definitely don't regret watching it. The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard is now playing in theaters. You guys can feel free to check it out, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you think. So, once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.